What role does family breakdown have here?
I think it's linked to what I was saying about, looking for relationship guidance. It's like, well, you look at something like mental health TikTok.
I don't know what that is, and I don't want to find out. I bet it's probably one of the scariest things a person could look at.
People are sharing like their really deep trauma and turmoil and problems. And you can't help but look at it and think, are you close to your family? Like, this is the kind of thing that you talk about with your family. It's what your family is there for. And now you're telling strangers on TikTok. And then you look at the statistics of the amount of Gen Z who aren't living with both their mother and father. I think in the UK, it's over half of children by 14 don't live with their mum and dad.
Okay, that is wild. That is, jeez, I had no idea it was that bad. It is one of the biggest holes in the boat of not just our country, but our civilization. I think it is fundamental to the mental well-being of a young adult, and therefore a grown adult. I think that we are a society of traumatized people who haven't been properly brought into the world and taught how to optimally act, behave, interact with other people. And so I really strongly believe that what we're witnessing is the obvious cracks in how we raise people and how we bring people into the world. We need a family. We need a tribe. A tribe is, I think, the healthiest, most optimal form for how human beings can help one another and bring each other into the world. A nuclear family is much less than that. It's just the two parents. In a time when society is strong, doing well, when one person can go out and make enough living for the family, then it can work. And we saw that in the 40s, 50s, and 60s in the United States. There were obvious problems, but as far as keeping a nuclear family together, it was possible. But now that our wages have stagnated and the cost of goods has gone up in comparison to the purchasing power of our dollar, it's become a necessity that unless one of the parents is making a lot of money, both parents have to enter the workforce. And then that puts the children into daycare, which there's a host of problems that arise from that because of the breakdown of the nuclear family and children being raised in single family households. It's horrible. It's, like I said, I think it's a civilizational ending issue. And so we will, out of necessity, find ways to come back together to help one another.
And so they don't have a feeling of belonging at home. And then you stretch that out to they don't have any sense of community. Their community is a Reddit forum or Instagram. Like, I, growing up, had no sense of what a local community is or like neighbours knowing each other. It's really foreign to me. And I think a lot of Gen Z, they don't have a conception of it beyond like an online community or like the LGBT community or something. That is the limit of community they know. So their family falls apart. There's nothing really to catch them. There's no neighborhood of adults who are there. Then you add that they're becoming less religious. So they don't feel that they belong to anything bigger than that. They have no faith in anything bigger.
I see religion and spirituality as a kind of a humbling enterprise. Giving you all sorts of wisdom is obviously beneficial, but greater than that, I think it is important to be humble to the fact that we are not the final finished product. We are a work in product. And if you don't have that sense of humility, then you can end up with just a runaway ego, believing everything that you say, believing that every idea you have is a work of genius. We have to humble ourselves and recognize that, the world is bigger than us and we don't know everything. And therefore, what if the universe was alive and that is actually what God or a creator was? a unified field of consciousness that we can all tap into and recognize that, oh yeah, the human beings that I interact with on a day-to-day basis, they're also me. They're an aspect of me. And so I should treat them in the same way I would want to be treated. That is fundamentally a spiritual perspective. I think we benefit from having that. And the main point is that if we don't have a humbling perspective, then we very easily fall into a narcissistic view of the world. And it's interesting how our society is actually building and constructing and fostering egotism and narcissism, and even to a more extreme degree, sociopathy and psychopathy. And so it should be no wonder that when these sorts of people rise up the ranks of popularity, fame, of power, well, if they inhabit what was once known as a competence hierarchy, it will become perverted and become a dominance hierarchy. That's how we get tyrants. It's very important to have a spiritual center, something that is foundational to your life, to keep yourself humble, but also connected to a higher power that you believe can get you through difficult times when you think nothing else or no one else out there will help you.
And so the feeling of loneliness is just so intense. And I was writing recently about how I think that actually one of the biggest drivers of behavior we see among Gen Z is this abandonment fear and feeling. Because their families fell apart, because they don't have community, because they don't belong to anything bigger, they feel constantly alone. And if you look at the kind of symptoms of abandonment, if you look at like attachment theory, like real attachment theory, not the TikToks, but the like Mary Ainsworth studies and everything, it shows like people who are abandoned, they're really hypersensitive to criticism. They have very low body image and self-esteem.
Yeah, so if you have low self-esteem, low body image, then you're just ripe for all these cosmetic industries to be a lifelong consumer. You need their products in order to feel better about yourself, in order to feel that you're good looking enough to put yourself out there on social media and be seen as a beautiful, beautiful person. And it's interesting actually, because this kind of like dovetails with the experiment Mouse Utopia, where I won't get into the whole thing. I should make a video about that one day. It ends up that the survivors, those who do really well in this structure built for many, many hundreds and thousands of mice to live. So it's the big mice who are able to guard the entryway to the best places. But also then arise the beautiful ones, the mice who simply spend all their time preening and grooming themselves in almost a neurotic fashion. And so that kind of like, it does connect with the idea that there are people who are obsessed with beauty, with physical beauty, and it's never enough. It's never enough. It's almost an insatiable hunger to see themselves as beautiful so that they can get attention and try to feel connection and love from other people. But also, if people are feeling a fear of abandonment, then what they're going to do is absolutely cling to a tribe. And that's what we see now with this polarization in the country. There's left, there's right, and there's this constant intensification of the fight between the two, to the point where if you're calling yourself a centrist, then what happens? You get called somebody who can't commit, can't decide on one side or another. They're a fence sitter. And so they're actually condemned and forced or peer pressured into joining one of the two warring tribes. And so a fear of abandonment by an ideological tribe makes you cling that much tighter. And then this, of course, will bring about groupthink. What the group thinks is what goes. And if you don't follow the groupthink, then you're going to be ostracized. And so it generates conformists. And this is bad.
All of the kind of caricature of Gen Z, all of the traits are like to do with this feeling of not belonging anywhere. So not to say that it explains everything, but I think families breaking down and not having a sense of belonging really messes people up. And I think a lot of Gen Z are kind of carrying that around and then looking for it in places. So that obviously they're going to spend hours on TikTok where people are talking to them and talking about their problems because they don't have anything resembling that in real life. And so, yeah, I think a lot of the things we kind of laugh at young people for as being kind of narcissistic and I guess selfish, and kind of we cringe at them having these crazy screen times. It's like, what else is there?
Well, we should laugh. We should, no, we shouldn't laugh. We should laugh, but also we should realize that these are people who are hurting, people who are obsessed and addicted really to the internet, to internet fame, the idea of finding love by groups of people on the internet. By the way, if you love this video, please like and subscribe. I want to feel your love just a little bit, but also comment and tell me how ridiculous I am, and tell me how, you know, how this trend may or may not have been affecting your life, how you're impacted by either the lack of a tribe or having one that you really, really love and cherish. Just to finish, I just have to say that people who lack this, they're hurting. And so people who are either traumatized or who are lonely, and isn't it interesting that one of the worst punishments you can receive in prison is solitary confinement. So being alone, being lonely, not having anyone to connect to is painful. And so when you're in pain, you're going to reach for something that can soothe that pain. And often, more often than not, that's going to be addictive. And we have an addictive culture. Most of our products are created to basically satisfy a need, but on top of that, we also get this dopaminergic hit every time we consume something. And so it just covers over our deep, deep wound of not belonging. And we also form parasocial relationships with people who might not have our best interests in mind, and they might not even care about us. But at any rate, it's a sad state of affairs for where human beings are. But like I said, this is a catalyst for growth, for change, for something new, for a new paradigm shift, because it's what we need. And so coming together, I think that's the future. And it's interesting that we have this technology through the internet, through YouTube, to connect to one another. But the cool thing is that that technological, virtual connection can actually become a real live connection, a means of forming a real community in real space and in real life. And so that's what I'm very interested in the long run, to see how we can use this awesome tool to bring people together and actually form communities of people who look out for one another and take care of one another. And that way, we can just kind of let go of all these nonsensical, harmful addictions and help one another to become the best that we can be, to live an optimal life, a life full of joy and love and creation, because I think living is ultimately a creative endeavor. And it's pretty cool. And it's true. We can create whatever we want. I love that saying. Everything that is man-made that you look around and you see was just a thought in somebody's mind. Our minds are that powerful. Our ability to create is that powerful. So let's just create a tribe of people who are interested in taking a new direction, doing something new, something wild, something bold, for the rest of the world to watch and look at and say, oh, that might be a better option. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Please comment, like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the next one.